Yeah, uh, yeah, yeah, uh.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday evening. It's May 19th, and we are here to talk about the Richmond Kickers. Again, Greenville triumph and all that went around the game with that. You may notice I am not Elliot. Elliot unable to join us this week. Family things going on. But me, Matt, and I got Kate here with me to be able to talk about the weekend that was. Kate, how are you?
I'm doing well. Would be better if we picked up 3 points, but I guess we can't be too greedy after the Ivy starting on a winning streak. I guess we can only get one win per team per week.
Well, one win on the field, but Kate, I believe you got a little bit of internet fame, with some of your various exploits on Saturday. How's it feel to
Yes.
be among the Twitter famous?
I do what I can for this league, like we have to find creative ways to market this league, outside of the MLSs, the NWSLs of it all. We have to figure out new and creative ways to reach a larger audience, and I think we might have done that this weekend.
Yeah,
I remain to see if it gets picked up by any other larger outlet.
yeah. So for those of you who might make better decisions in life and don't spend time on Twitter.com, refuse to call it the other thing. Will always be Twitter to me. Uh, I log on Saturday morning and see Kate starting to tell a story of some Friday night. I don't even know the right terminology for this because I am old and out of touch on these things. Uh, but yeah, short version. I think Kate's starting up a Kicker's honeypot. Uh, you know, kind of pursuits, and we're working on this. Kate, would you like to tell the story? Because I think pictures are starting to circulate around, and it might provide a little bit of context to what's going on with all this.
Yes, I would say this is just another example of why women in sports journalism is so important, because I've said it once, I'll say it again. I have discovered when Kickers players are back in the area extending their contracts before that's been announced, because they are back on the dating apps, or friends of mine have seen them back on the app. Give us a little inside scoop. So it really is. It's an uncharted area for sports journalism, is dating apps. But essentially, the long story is, I on Friday night saw someone who was decked out head to toe in Greenville Triumph gear on Bumble. Their bus could not have been in the city more than 2 hours, and already this industrious gentleman had gotten to work. So of course I had to swipe to see what the heck was going on. And what do you know? It was a match. And my profile does include a lot of information about me being a Kickers fan. So this man was out here openly fraternizing with the enemy, on his brief journey into town. So I was enabled by my dear friends Lee and Nicole, who the second they got wind of this said, "We're making a sign." Unfortunately, this cannot stay in our messages. This has to be shared with all of City Stadium and all of the viewers back at home on ESPN Plus. So we did. The cast is not sponsored by Walgreens, but thank you, Walgreens Photo Company, for your 2-hour turnaround time. They produced a gorgeous, 4 feet tall sign of this man's
Real
the
sizable.
first picture. It was pretty big. We don't know. We know that people were looking out for it. So I hope to, if anybody took any screenshots, please feel free to share of how well it rendered on the camera, if the cameraman zoomed in at all to figure out what we were talking about. Yeah, so all of Section O got involved. We wrote a song to the tune of September by Earth, Wind, and Fire about the whole situation. We were singing it. So yeah, I would say, I think, so I'm not going to say the reason that we nearly got a result against the team at the top of the table was because the bench and the coach were completely distracted, bent over laughing at the sign that we were waving in Section O and the songs that we were singing. But I don't think you can take it out of the equation. I don't think it was a non-factor. So it's also really important to come up with creative ways to distract the away team. Sometimes singing at the subs isn't quite enough. You really have to get creative. And I think that's what we did. I think Section O really brought sort of an undiscovered angle to distracting the away team. And it was a group effort in the end. Clearly, though, it wasn't enough because it didn't stop a goal going in the 85th minute, which sort of took a little line off the occasion. But
sure,
we
it did make it fun. It was a lot of fun, and multiple players, including ones who played all 90. We're clearly just waiting for all the Kickers players to kind of clear out of the way at the end because they wanted the sign, wanted pictures, with it, and forced that poor young fellow to engage and get his photo taken with the picture and everything. And I know I saw a couple of their Twitter posts after the game talking about good win, we've got to work on him on his profile on the way home, things like that. So Kate, thank you for your service, for taking one for the team, and
First
fraternizing.
responders night. However that's interpreted, it was first responders night.
It was. So, we don't just support the team on the field, we support the team off the field as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here to talk about on the field, unfortunately. So if you listen to this, I can't imagine you don't already know. Greenville won 1-0, 86-minute goal. We'll kind of go through what happened there. But right up front, we saw another new iteration of the starting lineup. It looks like the injury bug has struck once again. Joao was in street clothes, today. You saw a couple other little changes, including, I believe, is the debut of what we're going to refer to as Chandler O'Striker, this week. So moving along from Chandler O'Winger into Chandler O'Striker type role, with Suko and Bill Hart on either side of them. Behind them, it's the usual crew, with Shello still getting the nod in goal. Kate, when you saw that lineup at first, what were your initial thoughts about your beloved Chandler O'Winger becoming Chandler O'Striker?
You know what? I honestly thought that seems to be where we've seen him best. The goals that he scored have come from inside the box, not necessarily like from specifically the wings. So I do think he has a sort of fox in the box, like he can pounce on a loose ball and fire it right into the net. So obviously it's a position that it seems to be the team is evolving what a striker looks like when that striker is not Emmy, how the team sets up and plays with a striker who is not Emmy, because when Emmy has a specific set of characteristics, so that the team works best with him in it. So when you have a striker who is not him, who has different physical characteristics, different game style, I think the team is still figuring out how to play with a different type of target player. We haven't necessarily seen it work very well, regardless of who it is. So I think it's more of a team thing that whoever's in that striker position when Emmy is not playing, I think we're coming with, this is now 2 straight seasons where whoever is the striker is not scoring goals. So I can't necessarily say that it was Chandler specifically in that role score, but I think that being more of a target player and ideally having service to him in the box would lead to more goals, more so than him sort of carrying the ball on the midfield and maybe putting in crosses. I don't necessarily think it not performing well is specific to him. I think that we've seen strikers, both natural strikers and sort of bit part strikers, all struggle over the last 2 seasons because I just think the team is so it's designed around getting Emmy the ball, and we just haven't had Emmy to get the ball.
Yeah, and I think Chandler, did what he could, with a defensive midfielder's mindset, up at striker. Like you would notice him dropping a little bit, deeper, just because that's his what he's been trained, to do for so long. Like I don't think anybody can just snap their fingers, flip a switch, and turn off certain parts of them and focus only on others. That's it's not realistic. So, one thing you can always count on Chandler. He's going to put in the work rate. He's going to put in the effort for you up there. And for what it was fine. But I mean, that's kind of what you're referring to. Like whether it's him, whether it's Ryan, whether it's Arthur, whether it's Nick, it's fine is usually kind of the max of what we've been seeing for most of the year up there. So yeah, first half, not a lot happened in the first half. Like if you go back and watch the USL produce highlights, you see just like some random like dribbling around. You see
I think it skipped from minute 5 to minute 39.
Yeah, well, they played like the first full minute of the game, and I was trying to remember. I was like, did something happen right away? No, I think they just needed first half filler, so they just decided to run with that. I felt watching the game live, kicker started on the back foot, gradually grew into the game as the first half went along. Maybe had a couple of minor chances late in the half, but really, I think the only noteworthy things in my mind, first half were both Vaughn and Shello getting slight knocks, in our own penalty area. James just caught one right in the groin region, which every guy in the stadium immediately saw what was happening and took a moment for him, and he understandably took a few minutes to get up there, and then Ryan just went in, he got fouled, but still went in bravely for the ball, and took him a minute or two to get up from that. But okay, anything from your perspective that else you saw in the first half?
I think the big one is like Guy Franca. This is his second consecutive start after coming off an injury, and I think for a play like sometimes it takes a bit to sort of readjust when you've been out for that long. I think he hasn't really missed a step. He's looked good paired with Barnathan. Again, he's a big guy, so I think that helps. Griffin I think has a really smart game sense, but he is still a kid, and you can see the sort of development there. Guy provides like a pretty big physical presence in the box, and his touch is very sure. And I noticed maybe Barnathan was still doing more of the longer balls out the box, but I think that'll develop. He hasn't really gotten a lot of time to play assist very much, being out with injury for so long. So I'm excited. I think I'm glad that he is now an option again, that we're getting back rotation, because I think last season we saw what happened. You don't have much center back rotation, leads to more mistakes. So I'm glad that there's some options and that he's slotted in so well with Barnathan that they haven't really lost a step, because they haven't necessarily been conceding very many goals. I don't think goals conceded have been the problem in the last few weeks. So good to see that our back line is able to rotate and not necessarily drop off.
Yeah, and Ani presumably getting closer and closer each day. He's made the bench a couple of times. Now still haven't seen him on the field, but obviously that'll add to the competition at the center back spot as well. So building some usable depth back there. And like you made reference to, Kate, we saw the terrors of what happens when you don't have quality depth in that position. You can get found out very quickly, and I think the team is fortunate that Griffin was able to step in at such a good level that quickly at the beginning of the year, when we were still suffering from the injury bug at that position.
Yeah. And then the other thing briefly is Justin Suko, for not a winger player. I think he's been improving so far. The curve has been pretty steep. I think he's improved pretty quickly. I think I was pretty unimpressed the first time that he was out on the wing, but he's definitely seemed to have grown a bit more confident in terms of like taking the ball down the wing. He beat his man several times to get in on goal, and so we see you, Justin. We see you playing out of your position. I know that, and he looked better and better each game. Not necessarily, is this the long-term solution? No, but I think that I've seen improvement over each game, and this one was no exception. So he's a player. I think I've said this before. Sometimes he'll be out on the field because sort of moving around so many other players with very defined roles, and he's sort of like filling in. He's one of those players where sometimes I go the whole game without really noticing him, which I think can be a positive or a negative. Not making too many mistakes, but also maybe not being instrumental in any significant plays. And at least, so I've definitely actually been noticing him a lot more on the wings and noticing like some positive contribution. So not a dig in any way, but it's been nice to see him stop in a position that is not his natural position, and see some positive work out of it.
Yeah, he's definitely been a solid utility guy. Last year he was playing a lot of the midfield. This year we've seen him probably 2 or 3 different spots already. As a coach, it's got to be probably nice to have a guy who can plug in, at a decent level in a few different spots. Kate, you made reference. We'll hop into stuff that happened in the second half too here now about keeping goals out hasn't really been a problem, and I think that's coincided a lot with Ryan Shello coming into the team, and he made a couple more really high quality saves in this game. One of them pretty early on. I think in the second half, ball kind of bounced around and one-on-one, pretty much right down the middle of the box, and he's able to step out the top of his 6-yard box and be able to knock away a shot that, let's be real, if it had been the other way around, we would have been livid at whoever it was for not scoring that.
Yeah. His shot stopping is good. He's a very good shot stopper. And I think we've said this before that, like, obviously goalkeepers have had more and more demands on their skills in the past few years. The profile of a goalkeeper, their skill off their feet have become increasingly important. But at the end of the day, if you're not a good shot stopper, that's not as helpful at this level. So he has to see that he continues to have that in his locker. It's reassuring. It's nice to have that trust in the keeper that, in a big moment, able to make a big save and keep the scoreline 0-0.
Yeah, and again, it might not be a perfect, because of X then Y, but this is what 3 games in a row now with him in there, and only conceded 1 each. Of those games, whereas beforehand, we were averaging 2 goals a game against. Like something better is working right there, and I think he's kind of grabbed the number 1 shirt, probably for a little while at this point.
Mm-hmm. And you can really see his emotion too, which I think is always nice to see. Your player care. It's nice to see your keeper cares. Like after the game, he very angrily threw his gloves on the ground. He looked furious about the result. And so it's also nice to see a player who takes results personally, like clearly wants to be better, is unhappy with his own performance, even if we think that he played really, really well, unhappy with the result, wanting to do better. So that's reassuring as a fan to know that, we're not alone in our frustrations, even if the frustration is coming from different areas. Know that, everyone wants the performances to be different, to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of good performances, I think common through line through most of the season when he's been available has been Adrian Billhart. Not too different, on Saturday, other than the no goals, no assists. side of things. But he continues, I think, to be the source of a lot of the danger. We talk a lot about Neil and his partner in crime is consistently Adrian. What did you see out of him in this game in particular?
There were two plays in particular that stood out only because we've had a run of games where for some reason our home team, so this is now extended into the Ivy games as well, have kicked off to the Section O end, and so for the second half are at the other end of the stadium. And I think the kickers in particular have been second half teams. We've seen considerable improvement in the second half. We've always been on the other side of the field. So we actually, for once, got second half kickers coming to the Section O end. So we kind of got to, and Adrian was on the right side, which means he's on our touch line. So he was right there playing on our touch line. So one was not necessarily just, he played just the most unbelievable, perfectly weighted, curved through ball as down the wing for Simon to run onto. And one of the most beautiful plays I've ever seen in person. Just his control, the weight on the pass, the calm under pressure. Obviously nothing ended up coming from it, but knowing that he has so many, he's a player who can do it all. He can feed other players. He can take that run on himself, either taking that run down the wing, putting it across, or cutting inside, taking a shot from distance. He has confidence in himself in pretty much everything that he does. So that just stood out to me because we typically praise him for being a ball carrier, whether or not that's down the wing for a cross, cutting into the box, on the ground to someone else, or taking a shot from distance. So I liked seeing him sort of also in a deeper role feeding other players rather than the other way around. And he also earned a corner right near the end just through sheer work rate. Got to chase that ball all the way down to the end line, one-on-one with the defender. Both went in for the slide tackle and somehow managed to convince the ref that it was off the defender and not off him, even though it looked completely 50-50, but he sort of managed to get his foot around the ball so that the defender was like, it came off the defender at the last minute. And it was just seeing him work that hard, that late into the game, just to earn a corner, at that end, like that tenacity, that it's just really cool to like see a player that good up close and just see how hard he's working and like working for us, the fans and everything. So those two really stood out. Obviously there weren't any goals or assists to speak of, but seeing him on the TV, you're a lot farther away from it. And that's typically where we're able to watch him for a full 90. So yeah, I think he put in a really worked hard this game, and it continued to show why he gets the results he does on the field.
Yeah, my big thing with him and Neil right now is I think a lot of times they want to be able to play quicker, but they end up having to hold the ball, waiting for something to open up or looking for something, and then at times again I think it can make them look bad because they're holding the ball so much. Like especially you'll see Neil, he'll kind of go on a little bit of a runabout through the midfield with the ball. Like he can dribble 3 or 4 guys, but then it's either 4 guys converge on him and all right, well nobody's getting out of that, or just having to cycle it back and reset. The other thing I'm worried about with them is that there's on the ball so much, so clearly the 2 danger points that they're just going to start getting hacked down and get hurt. And joining the nice long list of other guys who are, on the injured list, and that wouldn't be great. So.
No.
So no goals to speak of for the kickers. One so close moment, though. So, coming, corner kick about 50th minute or so, gets whipped in, and Simon, I thought in real time he could have just let it hit him and walk it in, and it just took a bounce up and hit the crossbar maybe 2 inches too high. Otherwise it could have bounced down and in. Looking at it on the replay, he got pretty decent head on it, and headed it down and just bounced up a little too soon into the crossbar. But safe to say, far and away the most dangerous opportunity the kickers had, and coming back right from that whole set piece, danger that we've seen, this team provide time and time again, this year. So
yeah,
any
and
other?
notable because notable because I think a lot of the other headers were pretty weak. That seemed to be most of the highlights that ended up getting chosen were headers, but the headers were not clinical. They were straight at the keeper, very little power. So nice to see a header with that actually seemed to beat a defender or two, because none of the others were remotely a challenge for the keeper.
Yeah, that was a combination of some of them, ended up being from like 14 yards away, or just a very lofted ball that you'd have to have really, really strongly developed neck muscles to actually get any pace added on, to it. And credit to their keeper. He didn't step wrong, all game, but he also didn't really need to too often either. So we talked about Ryan Shello, playing well, making some good saves, and on the replay, almost was able to make the save on the game-winning goal from Liam McKinnon. Unfortunately, couldn't. Also, unfortunately, it looked almost like a pure. Well, start of the play looked like a almost pure mirror image of last week against Chattanooga. Another through ball that you look at in real time, you're like, that guy's got to be offside. There's no way he could possibly have cut through that cleanly. But he wasn't offside. Even in the post game, interview, Darren seems to acknowledge that he was onside, and that the center backs got split, and McKinnon's the leading scorer in the league for a reason. Again, credit to him. He laced one, right into the near post upper 90. I think Ryan did get a finger on it, and I think that's why he was so angry afterwards, because he probably thinks if I get a finger on it, I should be able to keep it out. But the shot itself, credit, really good shot. How it came to that moment, I think there's maybe some questions to be asked.
Yeah, and on the replay, Guy just didn't even seem to track back. He seemed so convinced it was offside. He was looking at the official like, okay, you're going to pop the flag. And Dakota also did not look like he was working too hard. It clearly the back line themselves were caught out expecting to see the flag popped as well. So of course, with the camera angles that we have, the camera wasn't even on the back line when the ball was played through. So the camera is already behind play by the time it swings around. So if Darren has other footage he'd like to share with the class, I'd love to see it, even just to satisfy my own frustrations. Because the footage did not necessarily answer the question at all.
Yeah, so hopefully that gets fixed up. Again, Darren seemed to recognize that, all right, this is 2 weeks in a row that something like this has happened. Can't happen like that. And just kind of puts a little bit of puts a big dower on what had been an acceptable performance to that point. Again, it's hard for me to say good performance, seeing how we just spent probably 5 minutes talking about no real offensive chances coming about, and that's a little bit of part and parcel of a good performance in soccer. But acceptable. I would be more than willing to give it a solid B, up until that point.
Agreed. And I think we said last week, the build-up play feels convincing. It feels replicable. But for some reason, there's nothing in I don't even want to say the final third, because it's literally up until the 18-yard box. We get the ball to the corner, to the edge of the 18, and then nothing. And I don't know if that's personnel being played out of position. I don't know if that's bad decision making, if teams are just getting back and filling in gaps, and so it's taking a lot more work. I don't know if it could be a combination of all of the above, but the actual play in the box is negligible. There isn't any. There's almost nothing to speak of. So I think that's the more frustrating part, because to a certain, I don't know what the solution is there, because if the ball, if the decision making, okay, what decisions do we need to be making differently? If it's personnel, okay, do we change our build-up play again? Try something new? Do we try a new formation? I don't know what it is, because we also, Darren acknowledged in the post-game presser that it isn't good enough, that things need to change. He took it on his shoulders, but again, I didn't really give any specifics about what changing actually means. Like what we could hope to see differently that would lead to more goals.
Yeah. The team's output, I don't know if you're as familiar with like the Darlington Nagby heat map meme. It's probably from a while back now, but the whole idea behind it is, in the attacking half, like from midfield up until the top of the box, it's like best in the world. Could play on any team, out there. Kind of the area right around that. It's, oh no, what do I do with the ball here? What do I do with the ball here? And then inside the box, it's it's labeled with F bomb, F bomb, F bomb, F bomb, F bomb, all over the place. And that's a little bit of how it feels watching the kickers right now. Like, yeah, they can pass it around, they can possess it like nobody's business anywhere that's not near the attacking penalty box. But when you get there, it's like they set up one of those invisible fences for dogs right around the area. Then everybody, including the ball, gets shocked when they get right around there, so they just stay away from it. So.
Yeah, just get the ball. To me, it's the ball needs to be in the box, and I don't think the ball gets in the box enough. That's my very untechnical way of putting it, is that the ball is getting near the box, but for some reason it's not bobbling around in there. It's not just sort of being in dangerous positions with open season. All right, somebody just get on the end of it. It's just not. It's the low quality chances aren't there. Like the low hanging fruit isn't there. It's
I'm all for getting in the box, and I'm not too proud to say, hey, get in the box. And if you happen to slip over a little bit near somebody's leg, okay, stuff happens sometimes. Oops.
And sometimes the other team, is the cause of it.
Yeah,
albeit weakly.
Right. So, but can't happen if you're not there.
Nope.
So, anything else on this specific game before we move along?
I think the final thing is, from a substitutions perspective, I think we've talked about youth. Obviously, we want youth integrated into the team. I think it definitely is a little bit frustrating to see. I think I didn't necessarily have any issues with Nick Simmons' performance. I think he had a good cameo in the substitution.
Okay. I think he fits in that fine category we were talking about before. Fine.
Yeah. Yes. And the ball didn't necessarily go through him as much as it did in some other games, where his youth and inexperience were less marked in this one. So yes, contributing to the fine, but it was a little frustrating that it took Guy off, and then had a flurry of set pieces right there at the end where we were chasing a game-winning goal. Griffin did seem to get bundled over in the box on one of those final free kicks. Of course, our arms went up for penalty. I don't know if it was a penalty or not. He definitely did get bundled over, but again, like a 17-year-old kid versus a
Grown
6'4" grown man. Like, it is a little bit frustrating when we are looking to sometimes just poach a goal off a set piece. Something we did a handful of times last season. I won't say a lot, but enough times to occasionally earn a goal.
We don't need to relitigate that argument again.
But it's a little frustrating. I know we want to integrate the youth, and I know that we haven't always been in winning positions enough to be choosy about when we do that, but it is a frustrating from a supporter's perspective to be chasing the game, to feel like we're in it, we are in it, that it's not worth chalking off the result, but instead our personnel have already sort of, we've brought youth players on who maybe aren't offering as much as the players they replaced.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, next week, Kickers back in Jägermeister Cup competition. For me, this is getting a little confusing / annoying of just toggling back and forth between league and cup, but back in the cup away at Tormenta this time. Both teams, nope, sorry, because of the way that the games run in the cup, I was going to say have the same record. Technically, yes, but the Kickers are on 2 points. Tormenta's on 1 point. So probably a spot where both teams really need the win, because only 8 games, in the season, in the cup season, that is. So this will be match day 3 for that. I'm all but ready to say that the wild card isn't going to happen for the Kickers because they're on 1 goal through 2 games. Some of these other, there's 1 team on 7. So might just need to hope they win out, win all their games and don't eat up that spot. But need goals. Goals aren't really happening right now, so it might just have to be the very, very unorthodox way of advancing in a tournament win.
A shocking thought. Yeah, I think maybe if it was a different season with a different Kickers team, this would be a whole lot of fun. So far, it's not necessarily been a whole lot of fun because why are we playing for a draw?
Penalties.
Penalties. I mean, yes, I evangelized about this sort of quasi pressure that can be found in these shootouts, which fine, fair enough. But this whole thing is goals against don't matter. I mean, obviously, if you lose by 7 goals, that's bad because you've lost. But goals against don't matter. So there's no point in playing for a defensive record in this. The whole thing is the league is like, we want the goals. We want the goals fast. There's been 4 games total across 2 match weeks that have had multiple goals. There's draws left and right. Everybody's going to penalties. I don't know if it's just because it's really hard to switch tactically between the things you need to do to succeed in the league and the things in this contrived league cup that you need to do to win, that teams just aren't able to toggle back and forth or don't see toggling back and forth as constructive for their goals in the league. So so far, I'm not necessarily convinced that this cup format is giving us our fan experience. And it's also for this Kickers team not set up to their skills, to their talents that we've seen so far. So,
in fairness, we are the weirdos. In fairness, we are the weirdos that go to the stadium actually knowing the difference. I imagine most people just think, "Oh, cool, another game," and just go on that way. So we are certainly the exception to the rule. I do wonder if teams might be a little more apt, to change up a system, change up a strategy for a game. Like all the group games are kind of condensed, like the MLS Leagues Cup was, where they take June and just shut down the league for that month and say, all right, we're doing Jaeger Cup this month. If you might see more teams try stuff, but with this 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off, but I wonder if that's why we are just seeing more of the same. So,
yeah, which is it's fine, but if we're not gonna succeed in this cup in this way by doing this. So it's also frustrating because it's more it's totally fine from an actual game perspective, but from the actual context, it just means we're gonna finish bottom of the group. And okay, cool. That's 8 games down the drain, played with absolutely there's no point.
Yeah. Okay, so this podcast brought to you by the expression, "It's fine. They're fine." We haven't used that like a dozen times already by now. So,
which is fine. Which is fine.
yeah, this is a perfectly fine podcast. We got this.
Mm-hmm.
We got this. Speaking of teams that actually do seem to got this, Ivy are back in play this week after their 1 week of rest that they're going to have for the rest of eternity. So, back home Thursday night against Charlottesville Blues. Kate, I think you have a little bit of information on them, correct?
A little bit. So it's been a pretty slow start in our division in particular. So the only other game that's been played so far is Christos versus Charlottesville. Christos won that 6-2. So in fairness to Charlottesville, that's more goals than the Ivy scored in their home opener. So maybe they got some goal scorers in their team. But that's a lot of goals to concede. And the Ivy being a team that Kimmy has said she wants to score goals, she wants to be attacking, she wants to, really rack up the score if she can. Who knows? Maybe this could be an opportunity. It's hard to know where the Ivy falls on the talent spectrum of the division. Christos went to the playoffs last season. They finished in second in the division and went to the playoffs. So if they've come back with similar strength this season, this playing against Charlotte will give us at least a semblance of a benchmark, possibly, for how the Ivy might match up against the teams in the stronger side of the division last season.
And for what I understand, the Ivy will have a handful of players back that were unavailable for the opener. Is that correct?
Yes, including Jill Flamia, who's been involved now for a few years with the youth national team setup and played in the U20 Women's World Cup last year. So we got to see her sister Sarah play in the first game. Sarah, a senior in high school. And she was great. She was really, really good, especially for age in context. Most of the other players on the field were already in college. So she played with composure. She really got stuck in. She made a lot happen. And then we sort of were told after the game, like, if you like what you see from Sarah, you're going to love what you see from Jill. So really hoping that having her in the team actually really takes this team to the next level, because it's like she is one heck of a player.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm just imagining, little sister does something, big sister comes in, just kind of bullies her out of the way. It's like, okay, thanks, I got this.
Yeah, but it did allay our fears that Sarah was only in a team as a sort of Mbappe concession to Jill, the superstar. Well, you have to let my sister join. I'm your superstar. No, Sarah has earned her place in this team fair and square, and it's really cool to see two sisters. I wonder if we'll ever get to see them on the field together, if they have any sort of like connection, like sort of mental connection, if they play really well together. Obviously, they've played in different youth teams, but it'd be cool to see them both on the field at some point, because the Flamia family is doing something very, very well. They're developing some pretty good soccer players.
Absolutely. And doesn't seem impossible, especially with fixture congestion coming up. Thursday, not Friday, not Saturday, Thursday at 7, right back at City Stadium. Again, it was a great environment for game one. Make it a regular thing.
I've heard over 4,000 tickets already sold for Thursday. So
that is just mind-boggling to hear. But happy to hear that. And then that's not all. The follow-up Sunday, playing Virginia Marauders, this time up in Winchester. I actually haven't seen where specifically the game is yet, but the team's based out of Winchester. You can only assume it's going to be somewhere up there or the General Valley area. If you're, again, a real sicko, I'm probably going to be at that one, because it's not a hard drive. For me from Northern Virginia, I've heard rumors that others might be coming up, since it is Memorial Day weekend, as well. So you can make a whole weekend for it. You can just go for the game and come back. Either way.
Come join. We might hit a winery beforehand, because if it's out of high school, I don't think they'll be selling drinks.
Well, there's not a million wineries on the way. So,
but it should be a fun away day. We've got that one based on schedule.
Yes,
it works out nicely, despite it being a Sunday night. It's actually
right.
of Memorial Day.
You can be a road warrior, go back. You just get a hotel room, somewhere, Winchester, Warrenton, wherever it might be, and find your way back, nice and leisurely on Monday, since it is a holiday. I imagine, not everybody will have that off, but for those that do get that off, what a better way to spend the day. And so, if you're planning on going up there, definitely reach out, let us know. Contact us through the show. Twitter's at River City 93. I don't even know what the email address is at this point. Kate, how would somebody get in touch with you if they want to be able to learn about getting themselves up to Winchester, if they want to learn more about how to join the Bumble ranks of finding and scouting other teams?
Yeah. So everyone make sure to follow at the Vineguard, VINEGUARD, on Instagram. That's the supporters page on Instagram. We are trying to be hip and cool and use Instagram to hopefully connect with the next generation of football supporters in Richmond. So make sure to hit us up on there. Send us a DM. Nicole, who helped create the sign, was my partner in crime yesterday, is the other person behind the Instagram. So feel free to let us know, or you can let me know on Twitter at Kate McLemonade, because I'm not trying to connect my professional self to my chaotic online Twitter persona.
Same, although slightly less chaotic. But always get a kick out of seeing, especially your various English League men's and women's train of thought, musings.
Yep.
Always fun. If you want to reach out to me, Twitter at RVA is red. You can tell me what you think about how the team is doing. You can tell me how great my opinions are. You can tell me how bad my opinions are too, but I know you're lying if that's the case. So, but yeah, let us know. Again, Elliot, Chenier, Gabe weren't able to be here this evening, but you can always holler at them as well. Any final words, Kate, before we get out of here?
In watching the highlights, it seems that the comms really likes the phrase "getting his dome to it" when describing a header. Which we all have our crutch phrases, but that's a little bit of a new one for me. So that was what I'm sure it was less obvious over a full 90, less so when all of the headers were condensed into one 6-minute highlight video. But yeah, that was my one observation from watching the highlights.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's
fine. Just like this podcast was fine. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully we'll have more of the crew back next week. Probably record on Memorial Day proper, so that way we can be able to get more in about the Ivy, be able to break down the Tormento Jägermeister game. But hope everybody has a good week, and we will talk to you next time.